Hello, welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Today I'm going to give my little 2 cents to this shebango. I know it's been over, the airways for a few days now. And I was going to make some kind of reaction video to it, but I just want to just go ahead and do it live so I don't have to do any extra recording. One of the things that I think that I haven't heard out there, and I think a lot of people overlook, I think Trump and his team was kind of overconfident because during the whole week, I think they thought that Zelensky was going to come over and just, rubber stamp this mineral deal. And that's all that we heard for the whole week. And I think they started to believe their own press. And they underestimated the fact that, Zelensky is somewhat of a dictator himself. And he looks at his people, like most dictators, as pawns to do what his bidding, even if that means, dying in war. So he's never really relinquished the fact that he wants, more out of a concession in this peace deal than Trump is willing to give him. So this assurance that there would be some protection if they have this deal, the truth of the matter is would only last as long as Trump is in office, right? Because Trump and Putin, for whatever it's worth, has whatever kind of sweetheart deal between them. That doesn't mean that they're, some kind of collaborators and some kind of nefarious bullshit that the Democrats keep trying to say. The truth is the two men probably get along and they don't want to have war with each other because they know how destructive that shit would be. And so Trump says, well, maybe we could stop this particular war, which is supposed to be the most primary thing. But the thing with Zelensky is that, he doesn't want to concede the fact that the war is lost. And the thing that makes it disrespectful is the only reason why they're still in this battle is because of American weapons and American money. But again, this gets me back to the Trump and his administration. I can't believe that they got caught blindsided that Zelensky might not come and rubber stamp this stupid deal. Well, not the deal's not stupid, but the rubber stamp this deal and they go to lunch and all's well that ends well, and he'll go back home. He'll take his couple of $1 billion that he siphoned off the top and go live off in the south of France. They underestimated this guy. And so he embarrassed them for whatever words, but this is what his plan was. His plan was to get in front of the American media, knowing that most of the American media hates Trump. And if he could cause some kind of shebango, he would get the Democrats who hate Trump, they would go with Lucifer if they could, because they hate Trump that much. They would rather see the world burn than see Trump successful in the office. And we'll come back to the traitorous, in my mind, Democrats later on, because they shouldn't put their own personal hate for one man over the lives of their own countrymen. And I think that's what they're doing. All right, so they want us to burn our own citizenry to keep this war going with Russia, as if we get into a real war with Russia, it'll be some kind of man war. No, the rockets will fly, you idiots, right? And all of us will lose. But anyway, let's get back to this guy, Zelensky. The one word I would sum up the Trump administration and their real fragile mandate that they have is that they have almost succumbed to complete hubris. There's hubris in the administration because things are going so well for them in their minds that they're forgetting that they're leaving real bodies in their wake. Okay, that, I don't mind them doing what they're doing because that's what he said he was going to do. But the visual and the spiritual reality of him doing that can cause them to lose the midterms because the American people are fickle. There's a certain amount of people he's laying off that voted for him, right? The actual visual of him sending all of the illegal aliens, even though they're illegal, right, pulls on a heartstring of their kindred spirits who are Hispanic and Latino, right? Even though they might have voted for him, the reality of seeing all their people get deported, even the criminals, might make them start to think a certain way. So this battle with this little tit-a-tat with Zelensky in front of the media, where Zelensky knows full well that 80% of the media hates Trump, and they'll do anything to make him look bad. So they take this and they put their own spin on what we saw. Now, I agree with J.D. Vance and everybody else that don't come in the White House and be embarrassed, because the only thing he should say to us, to America, is thank you. That's it. The war's lost, right? Save your own people. Get some of your places rebuilt with peace. Now, Trump cannot guarantee you peace from now to ever. We're not going to sign up American people to fight for you a decade from now or 2 decades from now. He can't do that. That's just as bad as you asking to be part of NATO, Zelensky. So let's go ahead and see how they got into this spat and who started the spat, and why is that spat? But really, just the biggest thing I take away is that I think the Trump administration and all the good things they can do, they have to realize that hubris can kill your momentum. It just can. And you guys, you're teeter-tottering on a precipice of hubris, if you're not already there. Okay, so you got some good things going on. Don't blow it. Don't blow it. So let's play some of this stuff, and I might just fast forward to the argument, but let's go ahead and hear a little bit of what they have to say.
Any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that Ukraine, more than Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But at the future, any negotiations, it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So these two sides will be at the will be at the negotiation table. Then, of course, United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending the line, and they have real life, and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also, it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR. They've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kyiv or Odessa, which is known to be a dirty area of the Black Sea?
It was my question.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of things
Mr. President, you have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive.
So we can see a little divergence already, right? Zelensky has a point in terms of if Russia, gets Ukraine, they won't stop there, right? We don't really know that. Okay, even before this war, which started in 2014, by the way, And when Europe had a chance to do something when Crimea was taken, they could have fortified the Ukraine from the second attack that was a few years back, but they didn't do it, right? Because they're waiting for America to spend their coin, to spend our coin, and then maybe even spend our troops. The very first time an American troop shoots and kills a Russian troop, we're at World War III. There's no way around that. I don't see it's any way around it. So okay, so now Trump mentioned how the cities were destroyed, a lot of cities, a lot of places. He's correct. But Zelensky's talking from the places that haven't been destroyed, right? Because let's face it, Russia hasn't been able to take Kiev yet. But let's go.
And people work and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live. Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us. No, he lost 700,000 people, 700,000 soldiers. He lost everything. Yes. So,
Mr. President.
See, now I didn't verify that 700,000 soldiers because they said that the Ukrainians only lost around 50,000 soldiers and another 10,000 civilians, right? Is that because of our weapons, their strategy, or whatever? But that 700,000 sounds like a lot. And if that's true, in Zelensky's mind, he's winning the war because at that ratio, what's that, 6-1? 6 to 7 to 1. He's saying, hey, listen, if you just keep giving us what you have, Russia will have to eventually back down because they can't lose how many millions of people they're going to lose over this thing. So if that's true, he's looking at that as his bargaining chip, and he should get more than just a resignation and a mine deal, a mineral deal. I think that's what he's thinking about. But still, let's continue.
More. I mentioned
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin, and what did he say that?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deals. I know pretty good, and I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. Russia was a hoax. It was all Biden. It was nothing to do with him. So he had to suffer through that, and he was able to do that. I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do.
Well, listen, I'll tell you this. I have my own surface reasons on why Trump likes Putin, as Putin is one of the only pure white countries left in that side of the hemisphere. And I don't even think that's like a racist sign. I just think that they have kindred spirits because of blood. But that Russia hoax weighed on both men bigger than people want to give it credit for. There's people who should go to jail because of that Russian thing. That changed an election. That changed that was traitorous against the American people and our right to choose the person we wanted to put in office. Back in that day, I didn't, even at the last minute on what happened with, I guess, Comey and some of the other folks, I think he was involved. But that whole deal should make us upset. But it just tells us that no matter who's president, no matter who's in charge, as American people, man, we're subject to all kinds of bullshit from these nefarious forces. And I guess, we say Trump can't be excluded from that, except for this term. Right now, they've been as transparent as possible. But again, a little hubris can make you see things that's not really there. Can Putin really be trusted? You know what I'm saying? Even if he gives you a handshake, even if he looks you in the eyes, we make that deal, we stop the war, we get invested into these mineral plants and all that kind of stuff. It only has weight as long as Trump is in office. That's what I'm saying. And Zelensky knows that. I don't know. And behind the closed doors, I'm hoping that's what he says. What kind of assurances do I have that if we concede we give up some land, we stop the war, and then when you leave office, you know, if the Republicans don't win or J.D. Vance doesn't win, and we put a Democrat back in office, you hear what the Democrats are talking about. They don't care how many Russians or Ukrainians die. They want to keep the war going. I mean, how many different ways do the Democrats have to say that's what they want? So I can see where Zelensky is really nervous about any kind of deal.
I do my whole life. That's what I do, is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess, because this is a real mess. It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claims repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people for memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on his behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday, and we thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about that?
We have concerns, obviously, with the conduct. There's particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made at Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one, that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
Well, listen, free speech is dead in Europe. There is no free speech. I don't know how many, let's just, you know, J.D. Vance said it already. Germany and Europe and Ireland and Great Britain, there's no free speech. They're putting people in jail already. So it's over. We are not in line with Europe. We are not kindred spirits with Europe. They have already broken that veil. There's no way. I mean, they're long gone. And if the Democrats get back in office, that's what's going to happen here in the United States. We know Mark Zuckerberg already told us they were on their way to doing that. Elon Musk had to buy X, had to buy Twitter, turn it into X for people who are not far left to actually have a voice.
Mr. President.
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the president's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country, and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there any other oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all critical?
A little bit. We'll see.
On LNG?
But we're not really looking for that so much. We got a lot. We have more than anybody in the world by far. So no, we're not talking about it too much, but a little bit. I think it affects also, but for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No, we don't need that.
Some of those
Mr. President, I
minerals
just
are in
wanted
the
to ask you
Mr.
about
President.
you just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well,
there?
we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll be
forces?
protected. The
European
agreement
forces,
will protect them.
U.S.
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement. You know?
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in their spots?
I just told you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
See, there you go. Therein lies the rub. Now, I know we want to get on Zelensky's point because I think we're getting close to where the argument's going to start. The truth of the matter is, Trump is telling him the truth. As long as he's president, that deal has some weight, right? It has weight. You can't argue that because whatever relationship he has with Putin, Putin can wait it out. Now, Putin doesn't have any elections. He's going to be in that office until he, passes away. So he's going to be there. He could outlive and outweight Trump, So when Trump is out of office, Zelensky's sitting here saying, shit, we could have this deal. And the deal's only good for 3 years and 10 months. 3 years and 10 months. It's going to take us 2 years to get those factories, those facilities up and running and cranking. Part of those facilities are right next to Russian weapons. So once they're up and running, what do I have to help me make sure that those things don't get taken by Putin? Right? So Trump is probably sincere that we'll protect it while we're there as America. But let me tell you, if Trump is gone, a Democrat president is not going to honor that deal. He's not. They hate Trump. They hate everything he stands for. They hate where the country is going. And if the Democrats get back in office, they're going to switch it right back to we'll be praising the alphabet community. They'll be trying to put men and women's sports. They're going to start censoring people again. We're going to be going right back that slippery road to hell that the far left had us going on. That's where we would go if they lose the election. And the reason why that's frightening is because if hubris continues to seep into the Trump administration, they're going to change minds. If they lose the midterms, if they lose the House and they lose the Senate, Trump is going to be out of office because they're going to impeach him. If they lose the House and they lose the Senate, they're going to impeach Trump as the first order of business, even if he doesn't commit any kind of real crime that's impeachable. They could just make that shit up. We already know that that's what they do on the left.
Some people may wonder why.
They ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions. Focus on surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive. Let's go. Please go.
I already mentioned Poland. Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
I would respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was
killed,
not here.
yeah, but
That's exactly
but-
right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people are been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about?
See, there you go, right? If you take on face value what Zelensky is saying, because you could go check that out based on history. Europe, you know, he had Macron from France, you had Merkel from Germany, I believe. So he's thinking that there's some weight and validity to whatever contract or whatever treaty he signed with Putin. But, you know, what he's leaving out here is that during the Biden administration, okay, maybe Putin still didn't stop killing whatever he did, but during the Biden administration, they gave him some kind of tacit thought and idea that he would become part of NATO so he can actually have the benefit of other troops and other weaponry, and like every other NATO country, if you get one NATO in trouble, hey, everybody got to go fight, right? So he was thinking that, but Putin said, hell with that. You know, I got a weak president in, well, you know what? I don't even think Biden knew what was going on, right? After his presidency, he was on the way out mentally, right? So we don't even know who was running the presidency, really, right? And so I could see his trepidation, right? We don't want to because we got to be on the side of our guys. You know, he's a dictator too, Zelensky, right? He knows the war is lost without America. He knows it. It's already lost, even though it might seem that he doesn't have the amount of casualties as Russia, but the war is lost without our weapons, without our money. However, his pride it's still inside of him. And what I'm saying is he probably has a whole bunch of people in his own country saying, you got to get us a better deal than this, right? Because Putin really, really cannot be trusted past Trump's presidency, right? So Trump keeps saying to everybody, if I was president, we wouldn't be at war, right? That war wouldn't have started. Yeah, maybe you're right, Trump. Maybe you're right. You keep saying that shit, but maybe you are right. So as far as Zelensky is saying, the reason why, if we get a deal, the only reason that will stop Russia from attacking us is because you're president. And when you go, who's going to take up the mantle of saying, Putin, you know, the deal that you made when Trump was in office still stands? Yeah, you know, Zelensky can't believe that shit because you keep telling him that the only person who can stop fucking Putin is you, right? It's hubris, man, hubris.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? That you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's exactly.
So, when I think that J.D. Vance and I don't disagree that J.D. Vance is taking up for the president and saying his piece about the respect. I'm not so sure that it was just blatant disrespect that Zelensky had for Trump or the American people. His perspective is different, right? He got you guys talking to him, and his people are dying, and you just want him to sign a deal and walk away, and he still has to wrap his hands around that. And so here's where I think the hubris comes in with President. This particular conversation that they're having should have been had before they got in front of the goddamn media. You know what I'm saying? They should have had, I don't know what they did or what they said, but we saw Trump, talk about how he was dressed when he showed up, and they have a lunch planned just after this supposed meeting right here in front of the media. So they're really getting blindsided by his position. But, the only way they couldn't anticipate the fact that he wasn't on board is because of complete disrespect for the fact that his part is losing. And they expect him to just come in there and fly right and all that kind of shit, which everybody wanted him to do so the killing could stop. But they should have more assurances that he wouldn't show out like this in front of the goddamn press, which is lovely for all the rest of us, people who are content creators. I mean, this is shit to talk about, right? And this is real world stuff in politics being held out in front of us. This is how wars have begun or maybe stopped and all this kind of stuff. Now, I believe that Zelensky has to raise above his own pride. And I'm not sure he's a man to be able to do that. Because on the ground, the people he uses as pawns are dying. They're dying. And Putin can play the long game. And America, again, we're hamstrung. We can only fight for him, fight Russia through proxy. I don't give a shit what the Democrats say. I don't care how many fucking talking heads are on NBC, CNN, MSNBC, all that shit. The very first time an American troop shoots and kills a Russian, we're at World War III. We can't do anything but be proxy. And all you assholes out there, how much more money do we have to keep putting into goddamn Ukraine? How much? Even if it's a bad deal for Ukraine. We're going to keep funding this war forever? We're broke. We are broke. We can't just keep spending money on death and destruction. That's such bullshit, man. Our leaders are fucked up, man. And right now they're all on the Democrat side because they hate Trump. They hate Trump. So they want to see the world fucking burn because they hate Trump. Somebody tell me how that makes any sense. You know, it's just crazy. You know, it's just absolute nuts. It's madness. It's absolute madness. You know, so let's let the argument rage for a little bit more.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
You will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was-
have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing.
very serious.
You're gambling with.
And not playing cards. You gotta love this stuff, but still, you know, I'm trying to look at it with clear eyes because, of course, I'm on America's side. It could be Trump sitting in that office. It could be somebody else. But the truth of the matter is, you gotta have a little bit of understanding where this guy is coming from, but not in front of the world. But that's not his fault. Trump allowed this because he thought that he would get his way. So did J.D. Vance, so did Marco Rubio, and they let this guy set them up for this kind of discussion in front of the most hated media that Trump ever had in his life. And they're loving it. They are loving it.
With the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can.
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank-
president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me.
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
say-
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's gonna
You know what, man? Listen, listen. This is the kind of typical man-on-man kind of fight that goes on but the stakes here are just a lot higher. You know what I'm saying? I kind of, I kind of love this shit, right? It's just at the wrong time in front of the wrong people. Of course, President Trump is correct. This guy wouldn't even be sitting here if we didn't put all that coin into him. But just like, I'm not going to say that one, but just like an unappreciative person that you give everything to, you can't really buy somebody's allegiance that way or their submission that way. And we all know that in our interpersonal relationships, just because you're spending money don't mean shit to some people. That's on you. So we're putting money, we're putting weapons, we're keeping the military industrial complex well fed. When I was working for the government, I worked for the Department of Defense. Let me tell you, every time we traveled to any of the contractors, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, anywhere, you had to spend hours trying to find a place to park. The parking lots were full. I mean, full. So, full employment and then some. So, we had to park on grass in a lot of places, and they had the nerve to put up signs you can't park on the grass, like there's somewhere else to park. Or you had to walk 2 miles, which would have been good for me to get there so I could, lose some damn weight. But the truth of the matter is, listen, Trump is right again, but that argument of being right doesn't mean that's in the right place, because Zelensky only has his point of view. And his point of view is, yeah, I'm grateful, but my people are the ones dying. And you want me to give up some mineral rights in some area and all that kind of stuff, which I'm willing to do. But what assurances do I have after you leave, Trump, that he's not going to just go ahead and come back in? I already have proof that Putin's a liar.
It'd be a very hard thing to do business like this. I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
Accept
to American people.
accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are
I
dying.
can tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers. Listen,
Don't play.
you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a
But I
ceasefire.
said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire
guarantees.
because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
is-
with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make
Um,
because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
What if
She's asking, what if Russia
breaks
breaks the
into
ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? How did they break it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out.
See, now, after all said and done, right, if you get to brass tacks, Zelensky kind of knows that the war is lost from his perspective, because if he loses America's support, that he thinks those pansy-ass pricks, man, from Europe are going to come in and do what we've done. That's just not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen, right? They're going to pay you lip service. They might say, they're not going to, it's not going to happen, or else they would have showed up for you in 2014. The Europe allowed a genocide, if it wasn't for Clinton, which he doesn't get any credit for, to stop the genocide in old Yugoslavia. While both the Muslim world and the European world sat and watched it would have been a complete devastation over there. So, without America, nobody has the intestinal fortitude to do what matters. So it's lost without us, right? And Putin is going to play the long game. He has no incentive to stop, even if he's going to, because he don't care about killing his own people. He don't care if it's 700,000 or if it's 2 million. He don't care as long as he get what he wants. So hey, so you got a decision to make. Zelensky, take the few million you took off the top of the 350 billion that you took off the top somewhere. Go rest in the south of France and live the rest of your life out like a king in splendor, and let your people live.
But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think?
What's this negotiation?
This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thanks, sir.
I need the back of this.
We'll see. I don't know.
Guys, come on.
And I didn't see that thing all the way to the end. I saw parts of just the argument, but again, I'm trying to be, I don't want to even use the word objective. I just wanted to be an observer to see that if I could see some of the things that Zelensky was saying, and I really can, but sometimes when you're even right, it doesn't matter because the time for you to be right is past. And, you can feel the way you feel, but in a war where real people are dying, okay, you're right, but what does it matter if the people you rely on want you to do something else? You gotta somehow become bigger than yourself to say, listen, you know what? How many concessions can I get out of these guys? The truth of the matter is you can't get any. And which is unfortunate that you can't get any of these concessions you're looking for. But I just really think that the war, as you know, it is lost, even if you don't have the body count as Russia. And if you think you could play the long game with Russia and Putin, you just can't. Now, Trump has a decision to make. It sounds like he's not going to put any more money into this war. And as for American taxpayers, I don't think we should either. I'm tired of paying for everybody else. We got broken bridges, and we don't have no peace dividend. We've been fighting some kind of war since 2000, right? Since 2000. A lot of people just don't realize when we got out of Afghanistan, it just took 5 months before we went into another war, a proxy war with Ukraine. 5 months. 5 months. So, it's time for all of this shit to end. And I don't care how many Democrats hate Trump. Nobody else is talking peace. And I guess peace has a cost as well. Peace has a cost to it, right? For Ukraine, peace means, hey, listen, you're going to have this tentative agreement. You're going to have this agreement with the United States. Putin's going to be at bay. And maybe he's only at bay for as long as Trump is in office. Okay, you could be nervous about that. But 3 years from now, maybe the landscape of everything has changed. Maybe the landscape. So that's my problem. But we can't keep fighting because we can't keep paying, and your people can't keep, dying. And we don't. I don't want to say we don't care, but Russia's people are going to die. And Putin doesn't care about that. So how much bleeding hearts do we have to have here for everybody else in the world? I think we as Americans, we need some peace, man. We need to be talking about, shit like technology. building high-speed rails. How come we don't have a high-speed rail between Boston and Washington, D.C.? How about the billions of dollars they wasted in California with that high-speed rail out there? How about, fixing some bridges so they don't collapse underneath the weight of a car? How about doing some shit that matters for American people? How about taking care of some Americans? How about that? It's crazy. And then all the Democrats, I haven't even begun to start. They all sound like traitors to me. The governors and the mayors who would rather have murderers and criminals and rapists running around the neighborhood so they can save a couple of grandmas who need to be deported. How can that be? It's everything's upside down. Let me tell you, if they take the House or the Senate or both, if they take both, they're gonna impeach Trump. The first order of business, whether it's a impeachable offense or not, because we know you can trump up anything to put an impeachment on it if you have the votes. So like the key word that I have is hubris. Hubris. The Republicans are falling into this overconfident trap where they think that just because they won the House or Senate and they have the presidency and the Supreme Court with more Republican or conservative judges, they're untouchable. You are not. You're not. Not with this fickle ass American population you have. Are you kidding me? All that the Democrats have, some people who are Democrats because they like one thing that the Democrats are doing, and they'll forgive all the shit on the far left. Same thing with the right. The right has one or two things that people want to live under, but they'll forgive all the other effery. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tenuous thing at best. Anyway, listen, I just want to rant, and like I said, I'm going to continue to do these. I would like to say whenever the feeling gets me, but I'm going to do them as it comes. But I thought the key word for this, I wanted to show the battle, which everybody saw 100 times, but I haven't really saw it all the way through. And the key word for me is Republicans. You got to be careful, because if you fall because you're overconfident, you could lose everything. Everything. So, hey, thanks for telling you, hey, lady Novoa, I appreciate it. And somebody else came in, and I appreciate that too. And listen, you know what? My daughter was over, and I was showing her some of the music that I come up with, some themes. And to tell you the truth, I know it might be sick, but this is, I got a, I don't know if it's my new signature, but I think there's a cost to pride. There's a cost to pride, but I got a song. It's not upbeat, but I have one that's a cost to pride, and I use it. I put that thing in my AI generator, and it throws out these songs that are pertinent to the situation. And if Trump had a moment, and J.D. Vance and everybody else, I would play this for them, and say, listen to the words and think whether you're falling into this trap. Because you know what? It seems to me that you are. And if you fall into this trap, man, there might not be no way out. It might not be any way out. So with that, after I finish playing this, it's a couple of minutes long, I bid all of you guys good night.
In shadows of the throne where the echoes play, crown thorns adorn the dreams of yesterday. With every step I took up that stony road, I reached for the stars, but I carried a heavy load. Hubris, the fall from grace, chasing shadows, lost my place. With fire in my veins, I touched the sky. The price price of pride made me blind, made me cry. Oh, the cost of pride, it's a heavy toll, a heart enthralled in a fragmented soul. The whispers of the wise, I ignored their call. Caught up in the grandeur, I was destined to fall. In the mirror of my mind, I saw a guiding goal. The higher the mountain, it darkened my soul. Hubris, the fall from grace. Chasing shadows, lost my place. With fire in my veins, I touched the sky. But the place of pride made me blind, made me cry. Oh, the cost of pride, it's a heavy toll, a heart enthralled in a fragmented soul. But in the silence, the truth does gleam, a flickering light in a shattered dream. I'll rise from the ashes with lessons learned, a whispered promise for my bridges burned. Hubris, the fall from grace. Chasing hubris, the fall from grace. Chasing hubris, the fall from grace. Chasing shadows, lost my place. With fire in my veins, I'll touch the sky. But the price of pride made me blind, made me cry. Oh, the cost of pride, it's a heavy toll, a heart enthroned in a fragmented soul. So here I stand with my humbled heart, embracing the scars, a brand new start. With wisdom gained from the ashes, I rise. No longer blind, I reclaim the skies. Oh, the cost of pride, now a tale I tell. For it's in our faults we must learn to govern well. In shadows of the throne where the echoes play.